This weekend, Virginia International Raceway and the Sports Car Club of America combine to form a mecca for lovers of sports car racing. Almost 500 drivers in over 20 classes do battle in a race for the gold. Since 1964, the SCCA has been crowning national champions at its annual runoffs. It's the peak of the Summit Racing Equipment SCCA road racing program. For the second straight year, welcome to the track that Paul Newman once called Heaven on Earth for the historic 60th running of the SCCA runoffs. It's the last day of the 60th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, and you could not ask for a more beautiful day. And thanks again to Mazda for presenting these broadcasts. Good morning, everybody. I'm John Phippen. Sitting alongside me is Tom O'Gorman, Hayward Wagner down in the pits, and we're about to bring you an exciting GT-Lite finale for the weekend. And again, Chamber of Commerce weather here in Southern Virginia, right hard on the North Carolina state line. But it's a beautiful racetrack, and we're looking forward to some more great racing. We've been treated to some fantastic racing all weekend long. The weather so much better than it was a year ago when we raced through a hurricane the entire weekend. This weekend we've had fantastic weather, kind of cloudy in the mornings, but this morning the sun was up early, and we're going to put it to good use. As we mentioned, Hayward Wagner is down on the grid. Let's get an opening statement from him. Good morning, Hayward.
John, you're absolutely right. The weather is beautiful this morning, which it was not for a lot of qualifying. A lot of qualifying was overcast, particularly the cars that went out in the mornings. They ran in cooler temperatures, even some slightly damp tracks. So this is going to be a very different race surface than what these guys were last on. And oh, by the way, they were last on it on Thursday. These drivers and cars have been sitting for 2 full days waiting for their chance. Normally, that means that your drivers are pretty anxious. They're pretty ready to go. Not Peter Shadowen, your pole sitter. He had a significant incident on Thursday in qualifying in his Prototype 1 car. Lost it in hog pen, went in backwards. I asked him if he was ready to go. He said he'd like to wait another day or two. He's sore, has some back pain, so keep an eye on him as we get through this race. Beyond that, these are just really cool cars. I'm going to let you guys take a look here at what we have on the grid. Shadowen, as I mentioned, this is a Honda CRX, rear drive, aero bits, full-on GT race car. Right beside him, one of the prettiest cars in the paddock. Look at this Toyota Tercel with the gorgeous blue paint, the trademark TRD yellow, orange, red stripes down it. And then beside him, Mike Lewis, all the way from California in the Goodyear Clad RX-7. Mike is just looking for an itsy-bitsy teeny bit of good luck in this race. He has had a rough week running in multiple classes, and this is one he'd really like to get a good result from.
Thanks, Hayward. Great insight. Looking forward to this one for sure. Sitting alongside me, 7-time solo champion, Tom O'Gorman. Tomo, this is the bottom of the GT ladder, but these cars are so much fun.
Yeah, low horsepower, low weight, very nimble, very quick for what they are.
Yeah.
And it's maybe not the fastest cars we'll see around this lap of VIR, but they are really, really neat.
One guy that's a little different, but let's go through the track map and then we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Go ahead, Tom. Take us around.
Sure. Deep on the brakes, down into turn 1, a great passing opportunity. We've seen some excitement the last couple times we visited VIR here, specifically in GT-Lite there in turn 1. Then sweeping through NASCAR turn 3, the lower S's starting at turn 4. Very, very critical to get on the throttle early because they're going to be flat out through the upper S's at 7, 8, and 9, those iconic S's in the background. Then very, very fast. So there's good aero on these cars for the most part. We're going to be very quick through South Bend at turn 10, and then up through the blind entry into the Oak Tree corner at 12. Onto the back straight, long pull for these cars down towards the roller coaster at 14, and then hog pen at 16 and 17 onto that front straight. We've seen so many races determined by a tenth or less at VIR this year. That front straight coming out of hog pen is very important.
Want to talk about one driver in particular, Graham Fuller, who lines up on the outside of the front row. Graham has raced this race 4 times, and he's had a CRX every time. He's decided to make the change to a Tercel this weekend. Think he's got a better chance?
Well, he seems to think so. Obviously, he's qualified second. He's changed cars for whatever reason it may be. But you're right. He ran that CRX, a front drive CRX, in fact, for quite a number of years. There's another driver that's been here for a long time, but has been tweaking and working on some things. That's Jonathan Goodale. He's actually been tweaking the aero setup, trying no wing with a wing. He's trying a hard top, no hard top. We see it's actually back to the exact condition we're used to seeing it, no hard top with a wing. But that car's qualified a little further down the field than normal.
Let's run the starting grid for you. We've got 11 cars on the starting grid. Alone in row 6 is the 78 of Roger Welling from northern New Jersey and a Nissan 200SX. The only rookie in the field starts outside of row 5. That's the 41 of Kenneth Burdine. He is out of the Ohio Valley region, my home region, an MG Midget. Next to him, the 37 of David Blaine from the North Carolina region in a Miata. In row 4, the 03 of Chris Copley out of the New England region in a Mini Cooper. And the veteran Roy Lopshire, the number 98, out of the Kansas City region in a Toyota Tercel. Up into row 3, the 04 of Jonathan Goodale from the Colorado region in an MX-5. And the 77 of Eric Vickerman from the Detroit region. He's in a Mazda MX-3. Moving forward to row 2 on the outside, car 9, James Gregorius from the Finger Lakes region in an RX-7. And in his 44th runoff start, car number 32, Michael Lewis out of the Cal Club, a 10-time national champion, most recently in 2020 in GT3. Now for the front row, a couple cars we've been talking about. The 22 of Graham Fuller out of the DC region in his Toyota Tercel, new to him for this runoffs, and the pole sitter, and multiple winner as well, 5-time champion, and the defending champion of the class, the 72 of Peter Shadowen from the Florida region in his Honda CRX. Field working its way around behind the safety car. And again, we'd like to give thanks to Mazda for providing multiple safety cars here this weekend, and especially Sport Durst Mazda in Durham, North Carolina, which has helped us with the safety cars here at the 60th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. We have one driver eligible for the Super Sweep, and it is your second place starter, Graham Fuller. If he wins it, he will take the Super Sweep. The Super Sweep, one of the toughest awards to win in road racing competition. In the same class, the driver has to win one of the Hoosier Super Tour races. He has to win the Hoosier Super Tour National Points Championship, win a U.S. Majors Tour Conference Championship, and win the runoffs. Peter Shadowen, of course, winning the prestigious Tire Rack Pole Award, and that gives him the honor of starting on the front. He also gets a gift certificate for Tire Rack and some other nice Tire Rack swag. So congratulations for Peter for notching that Tire Rack Pole Award. As they come down the hill into Hog Pen, lights out on the safety car. It'll pull into the pit lane and turn the field over to Peter Shadowen and Graham Fuller. Right behind them, Michael Lewis, the 10-time national champion. Again, doing multiple classes here this weekend. The GT1 class not running, but Michael's had his hands full, no question. And the green is out. Green, green, we have it. And here they come. Shadowen gets the jump, and he'll go right into the lead as the rest of the field still side by side. It looks like Graham Fuller's going to hang on for second spot as they dive into turn 1 for the first time. Around the outside is Fuller. Mike Lewis jumps up into third spot. Going around the outside is the 9 of James Gregorius. And there's the 77 as well of Eric Vickerman. As they go through NASCAR, that long sweeping left-hander. And diving down the inside is the 04 of Jonathan Goodale in that midget. Go ahead.
Something happened to Peter Shadowen between turns 1 and 3. He's now in second place. It's going to be Fuller to the lead, and he looked like he was going to just start to drive away. Something interesting happening there at the number 72, and it looks to be still off pace a bit as he's kind of a cork in the bottle for the rest of the field. It looks like Lewis is going to pull alongside, potentially a power issue in the CRX, as that car's been the fastest in a straight line all week.
Yeah, he has been quick, as we mentioned. A 5-time champion and the defending champion. Maybe taking a little time to get that car up on song. He looks to be okay now through the climbing S's. And the 04 there of Jonathan Goodale in that Miata as they work their way up the hill and into turn 16. Not turn 16. It's turn 11, 10 and 11, sorry. As we're 11 and 12 into Oak Tree Bend. Michael Lewis getting a good run off of Oak Tree. That's the most important turn on this racetrack. And he is now side by side with the defending champ, Peter Shadowen. Lewis might have the legs on Shadowen. I think you're right, Tomo. That CRX not as quick as we normally see it.
Yeah, it's something interesting happening there. And the other car that's really quick in a straight line right now, Gregorius, was able to come from behind Jonathan Goodale and pull up nearly alongside Shadowen until the end of the back straight. Looks like his top speeds, I'm talking about Shadowen, are okay, but his acceleration rate off the corner isn't there. I'm not sure if maybe he's lost a gear or something.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be a shifting problem for sure. Look at the flames coming out of that Mazda of Michael Lewis as he works his way onto the front straightaway. But Graham Fuller getting a jump. That shift to the Tercel is paying him good benefits here, at least in the early stages as we complete race lap number 1.
So Shadowen had the field covered pretty handily throughout most of qualifying. They got a little bit closer on the third day of qualifying, but the story has basically been that Shadowen has the trap speeds in that GT-Lite car to beat everybody else, and it's usually to the tune of something closer to 5 to 10 miles per hour. If he's lost that advantage and he doesn't necessarily have the handling to make it up, he's definitely going to struggle as he's continuing to drop back from the top 2. Graham Fuller has checked out pretty well to about a second and a half, but now Michael Lewis, as he's getting that somewhat smoky RX-7 up on song, is closing in pretty quickly.
Yeah, one of his apex seals might be a little off the prime, but nonetheless, he's still doing a great job. As this battle for third, the final step on the podium, is a dandy with Peter Shadowen, the pole sitter, and then right behind him, the 9 of Gregorius, and then the 09 of the 04, Jonathan Goodale. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a moment.
Yeah, Goodale was able to kind of knife his way up through the field pretty nicely on the first lap between turns 1 and 4, but was a little slower on the back straight. Gregorius did a nice job to stay in touch and then pull alongside. That is some pretty heavy black smoke coming out of that RX-7 of Michael Lewis. So it would indicate there's not really a huge issue, maybe just getting itself cleaned out. They actually do an engine change on this car for GT3 and GT-Lite, back and forth. It does his crew, so that engine hasn't been in the car for a couple of days.
Got it.
Which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that might be the explanation for it. It's running a little rich, perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? But nonetheless, he's got good pace. But this battle for third is a dandy between Gregorius and Shadowen as they head up into the roller coaster. Down the hill they come. But the two-way battle at the front. Lewis definitely getting closer and closer to Graham Fuller. But Peter Shadowen hanging on. Peter Shadowen, the winner of the Sunoco 260 Tuesday Award. That's one of the contingency awards that these drivers are awarded. It's based on kind of a fun aspect to promote their Sunoco 260 fuel. The driver whose time in the first qualifying session after the decimal point comes closest to .260 wins the award. And Shadowen turned a 211.224. And that gets him 15 free gallons of Sunoco race fuel. As we watch this battle for the lead, as Graham Fuller got the jump from outside of row 1. And Mike Lewis, though, has been gradually reeling him in. And this is definitely going to be a nice battle at the front. Lewis locking him up just a little bit of brake smoke as he turns into the left hook, and then the right-hander leading into the lower S's called the Snake.
Lewis was the fastest car on the track last time by about a second over Graham Fuller. He was a second and a half the previous lap, now only a half second between the two. But they seem to be kind of stabilizing. I don't know if one car will have a better run than the other for the entirety of this race, as we're only on lap 3. And these GT cars do develop over time a little differently. The only real rule is the engine matches the bodywork of the car. That's the only indication of why you're running that bodywork, is the engine in the car. Otherwise, they're mostly tube-frame cars. You can do mostly whatever you want, except for David Blaine is running in the 8th position. That's a production-based chassis in this class.
Yeah, there is the ability to run both kinds of chassis, but the vast majority are tube frame for sure. So they're sort of silhouette cars in the sense that the bodywork looks like the road car, but the engine, you're right, does have to have its roots in the road car, but they're pretty heavily modified. That Cooper, for instance, is a rear-wheel drive Cooper, so it definitely is not the Mini Cooper you would see on the road.
Goodale trying to shake him, weaving down the back straight, but this is a great run from Chris Copley up the inside, takes a peek, trying to fill the mirrors. You would expect the Mini to be a really good handling car, but it looks like the MX-5 has the handling, and the Mini a little bit faster in the straights. You take a peek through the window of that Mini. He sits in the back. His head's almost against the back window. It's really cool.
I know Joe Huffaker had one of those for many, many years, and Joe's a big, tall guy, and literally he sat in the back seat of that rear-wheel drive Mini. A multiple national champion in his own right. But yeah, this is a great, great battle with the 04 of Goodale trying to hold him off in that MX-5.
Copley.
Yeah, Copley getting a great run alongside. That Mini's got some good straight line speed, and he's able to get the job done. Let's see if he can hold it, as he didn't have the best entry line, but he looks like he's got it done. So Copley moving up into 5th spot, putting Goodale back 1 spot as they work their way through NASCAR.
This is the battle for the top 5 just up the road. Peter Shadowen is kind of clinging on to a pace that is almost 5 seconds slower than his qualifying, which is keeping James Gregorius right there. And that's kind of a heartbreak for him. Hayward mentioned the incident earlier in the week with the Prototype 1 car. He was really relying on this race to be his success of the week, and the car doesn't seem to have it in him.
Yeah, exactly right. Or maybe, he's feeling the effects of that off. It's hard to tell. Maybe he's just not, he said he'd like to have another day to recover, but, the car just not quite as sharp as we normally see it. But looking good through the climbing S's. He's able to put a little gap on the 9 of Gregorius through that section of the racetrack. But the RX-7 comes back at him on the straightaways, which is kind of unusual. I'm inclined to agree with you, Tom. Something not quite right in the drivetrain of that CRX. It's normally just so quick, as we're seeing a yellow flag waving at the flag station, as I think we may have a slow-moving car out on track.
Yeah, up on driver's left. Off the track in a safe spot, Eric Vickerman in that MX-3 with a mechanical issue. Already had safety responded to him, so we should stay green with that local yellow covering that car, but Eric Vickerman's race is going to come up about 5 laps short, or 10 laps short.
Battle a little deeper in the pack. Kenneth Burdine making his first start in the in runoffs competition in that number 41 MG Midget, and right behind him, Roger Welling in the 78 Nissan 200SX. As we turn our attention back to the battle at the front, as Michael Lewis just gradually reeling in Graham Fuller, who jumped out to a big lead. Graham, I'm sure, getting more comfortable with the Tercel, as I said, running that front drive CRX for much of his career in this class. And now the Tercel looking strong. Lewis dives to the inside, trying to make the move, but Fuller holds him off as they round their way around turn number 1. Then a little feint to the right or the left, should we say, at turn 2, and then the sweeping left called the NASCAR turn here on this 3¼ mile 17-turn circuit. Into the left hook. Again, that Mazda of 10-time champion Lewis showing a little smoke on decel especially, but the rotary engines in these RX-7s always spewing flames on deceleration. Always great fun to watch.
Always thought that was so cool. Always wanted to race a car that spit flames, but it looks like Graham Fuller's a little bit quicker in the low-speed stuff. The mechanical grip of the Tercel seemingly a bit better than Lewis. Lewis, though, either more committed or better in the high-speed corners. You see just kind of exchanging fastest sectors back and forth at a very stable half-second gap. But Lewis was quicker by a 10th last time through and holds the fast lap of the race.
Keeping an eye on this 3rd place battle, as Shadowen's car seems to be coming to him a little bit as we get later in the race, as we're working race lap number 5. So just about a third of the way through this 15-lap or 40-minute finale. As Shadowen's car really doing well, handling very well, especially through the climbing S's. But take nothing away from that 0-3 of Chris Copley. He's been picked up after getting around Jonathan Goodale. He's beginning to make some ground up on this battle in front of him. So Gregorius, though, getting the run on the straightaway. And again, that's so unusual. You can normally see Shadowen CRX just unassailable in a straight line. And Gregorius able to motor around him and move himself up into one of the medal spots.
With this battle, that's going to bring Chris Copley and the Mini pretty close. If they continue to exchange positions, he was able to shake Jonathan Goodale, who also seems to just be a bit off the pace we'd expect. He's finished on the podium 3 times, 3 third-place finishes, and just kind of floundering in 6th a bit further back than we'd expect.
Yeah, exactly. As we watch the 9 of Gregorius now up into that 3rd spot, Shadowen dropping back, as he had led Gregorius for the early stages of this race, and Copley closing up as we turn our attention back to the lead battle. And it looks like Graham Fuller getting a little more comfortable in that Tercel as he's able to open up just a little bit of a gap on 10-time champ Michael Lewis.
And last time through, Graham Fuller reclaims the fast lap of the race. And this is the section of the track where we're speculating his car's a little bit better than Lewis, but Lewis tends to come back in the second sectors in the higher speed stuff.
This is Graham's 6th runoff start. His best finish a second here at the first year of VIR back in 2019 in GT-Lite. He raced, of course, here a year ago as well and didn't have the finish he had hoped for, and that really prompted his move to make the change from the CRX to the Tercel. And so far, it's paid good dividends, giving him exactly what he was hoping for, which was a chance to get to the sharp edge of the field. But Copley in that Mini continues to run down Peter Shadowen. Shadowen no longer challenging Gregorius, who's solidly up into third. So a pair of RX-7s running second and third. Shadowen in the CRX, Copley in the Mini Cooper right behind as we're working race lap number 6. Let's step aside for just a moment and give thanks to some of the fine sponsors that make the racing possible here at the 60th running of the SCCA Runoffs.
Okay, so pretend this is your race car. It's on the trailer, and you have an accident. Ouch! At least your truck's insurance will pay for another one? Yeah, not so fast. Standard insurance won't replace your race car, whether it's in the trailer, in the paddock, in the garage, or the repair shop. But at Hagerty, we can protect it for what it's really worth anytime it's off the track. No matter what or where you race, all for less than a set of race tires. Hagerty, let's drive together.
A car like this shouldn't exist. Something this big, this luxurious, shouldn't move like a Mazda. And yet, it does.
Oh my God, it sounds epic as well. This car is an SUV with bragging rights.
The 3-row Mazda CX-90.
It's Hagerty Race Days presented by Mazda, the final Hagerty Race Day for the 60th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. We're racing GT-Lite. I'm John Phippen alongside Tom O'Gorman as we are bringing you the call here. And once again, Peter Shadowen, who was the pole sitter and a 5-time champion of this class, having his issues today as that car not quite at the sharp edge as we normally would expect. And he is coming under serious pressure from Chris Copley for 4th spot now. As we look at Jonathan Goodale in the 04 yellow Mazda MX-5, running just behind that battle. He's in 6th spot right at the moment. And here's that battle we were talking about between Shadowen and Copley. And Shadowen's car, like I say, just not quite on song for whatever reason. Chris Copley chasing him down as they make the long run, the long uphill run on Madison Avenue. Copley's best finish in the runoff so far was a 4th out at Sonoma in GT-Lite. So looking for a chance to match that best runoffs finish. As they've already caught the back of the pack as Roger Welling going a lap down. Eric Vickerman, as we mentioned, in the MX-3 had problems literally on the first lap of the race. Shadowen holding his own at the moment as Copley doing his best to chase him down. But Shadowen back in 4th, and it's not where I think any of us expected to see him, as he is some 13 seconds behind the lead of the race.
Yeah, and up in the lead, the Graham Fuller's continued to pull away by a couple tenths per lap over the last couple. It's up to 2 seconds gap back to Michael Lewis. As Copley now, you can see the straight line speed on the CRX just is not there at the end of the straights. Copley is going to look to the inside, deep on the brakes. Shallows up the entry a lot and goes to the apex. Shadowen going to try to do the over-under and gets it done.
Yeah. Shadowen's car still handling very, very well. The problem seems to be with horsepower or a transmission problem, something. The car's not quite as quick, but the car's still handling very, very well, and he's good through the twisty bits, and he stays side by side with Copley. Copley has to concede and falls back in single file as they make it through left hook. This right-hander here coming out of left hook has been an area of some contention throughout the course of the runoffs. We had several incidents there, but these guys handling it cleanly. Copley is right there. And I think we'll see Shadowen begin to eke it away as they come into the climbing S's, as that CRX really handling well. Right in the curbs. Right out to the edge at South Bend as they make the run up the hill, and then the double apex right-hander at Oak Tree.
See the weight on the side of the Mini as he goes by, 1,500 pounds. That's the minimum weight, so when they roll into tech, they know what the car has to weigh, but that thing's a featherweight down there at 1,500 pounds. More lap traffic up ahead, and we can see just the back of James Gregorius running in third. He's finished fourth in the runoffs before in 4 appearances, but he's never been on the podium in that RX-7, so he's got to be pretty thrilled knowing that he's not got a lot of pressure from behind. There is some tension, though, in a GT-Lite race at all times about the car making it to the end. These cars high-strung, and it's a little bit stressful. You're never done until the checkered flag is done.
Want to acknowledge another of the contingency awards, the Hawk Performance Breakthrough Award, and that goes to the rookie Kenneth Burdine, making his first runoff start. That award is given to the driver who makes up the most positions in qualifying between the first and second day of qualifying. We've talked about it throughout the course of the weekend, and Kenneth Burdine picked up 2 spots between Tuesday and Wednesday, and that gave him the Hawk Performance Breakthrough Performer. He gets a fresh set of Hawk brake pads, either for his race car or for his tow vehicle or his street car. As we turn our attention to our leader, is Graham Fuller really eking it away now, almost 2.5 seconds over Michael Lewis. And again, everybody keeping their fingers crossed that these cars will all make it to the finish. We used to talk about the production classes being cars that had 14-lap hand grenades under the hood, you know. And these GT-Lite cars, not that far removed from that.
So Fuller acquiring this car after racing that CRX, we've talked about that, but this car actually has a national championship at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with Scott Toomey at the wheel 2 years ago in 2021. He had a great battle with Chris Bovis, one of the more exciting races that weekend of the 20 or so that we do, and looking like it's potentially on its way to another as he's continuing to pull out maybe a half second or more per lap on this car. Michael Lewis not quite able to sustain the pace that he had shown, although he does still have essentially the fastest lap of the race, both of them running very similar laps.
I chatted, as you know, Tom O'Hare, yeah, we've got a slow motion shot of this Mazda. Look at the flames coming out of that car as it's working its way through Oak Tree once again. Very characteristic of the rotaries, showing the unburned fuel coming out of the exhaust pipe on D-cell. And not smoking nearly as much. As you said, Tombo, they put this motor in the car specifically for this race. He uses the same chassis for GT3 and GT-Lite. They just have to swap the motor. And so it's obviously fully warmed up at this point. There's the 9 car, James Gregorius, hanging on to the final step on the podium right now. Driver out of Livonia, New York, and he's got a pretty comfortable advantage over the Shadowen Copley battle for 4th and 5th as he powers across the line. Gregorius in his 5th runoff start, his best finish, a 4th here a year ago. So he's up 1 spot from his previous best, but this is the best battle on the track right now. The one between Shadowen and Chris Copley.
Copley had it once, but he's not been able to get back to the bumper after Shadowen executed the over-under. Shadowen's top speeds earlier, again, speculating some issue with the cars. Best trap speed in this race is somewhere around 119 miles an hour, but in qualifying, he was exceeding 130.
Wow.
So that's a significant amount of speed missing from the number 72 car. And behind these guys is Jonathan Goodale. Looks to have a little bit of bodywork dislodged, a bit of front tire smoke from that car, but otherwise just circulating kind of in a lonely 6th place.
Lonely is right, as he is, like I said, well back, about 11 seconds behind Chris Copley. Oh, we've got a car off the 37 of David Blaine. Has put it off, but he's able to get going, so good. That won't bring out a safety car.
Yeah, it looks like a self-spin at the top of the roller coaster, and that's the only fully production-based chassis, I should say, in the field.
Yeah, he just, I think, probably locked up the rears coming off of Madison Avenue into the roller coaster and then swapped ends on him. You can see these GT cars run a lot of tire. I mean, they've got big fat tires, small wheels, but big tires on these cars for the most part. As you're looking at third, fourth, and fifth in your camera shot. Peter Shadow and the pole sitter just cresting the hill. Then it dips down and then another uphill run. Into the braking zone. The roller coaster, the track just drops away. Again, the camera does not do justice to just how steep and steeply downhill that section of racetrack is.
I'll tell you what, last time through, Michael Lewis was able to get back to that faster pace. He took nearly a little over a second out of the lead. But he only did it once, and Graham Fuller responded immediately and went a little bit quicker this time through. So the consistency between the two is not fully there, and I don't know if that's Fuller responding every time he sees the blue RX-7 getting a little bigger, or maybe Michael Lewis is having some handling issues or some sort of running issues that makes the lap times a little more inconsistent for that number 32. You see the hood is buckled under the air pressure across the nose of that car, yep. But he doesn't have... trying to say it's not over yet. He's got some speed in that car. He just needs to find it consistently.
Yeah, trap speed of the front two, very similar. Mid 120s for both Fuller and Lewis. So it's strictly a matter of how the car is handling, and everybody knows Michael Lewis can wheel that car in his 44th runoff start with 10 gold medals, a total of 22 medals. He's certainly one of the most successful racers, long-term racers for a long time. Raced for GT1 for many, many years. And of course, GT1 not running here this year, but he's also running in GT3. As Mike giving chase to Graham Fuller. I started to say earlier on, I was talking to our friend Rusty Bell, who you know well, who races in GT-Lite. Hi, Rusty. I'm sure you're listening. And Rusty opined, he wasn't absolutely sure, but he opined that that car of Graham Fuller might have been the car that Kyle Disk ran at one point. Kyle Disk, a very successful racer in GT-Lite as well with Toyota. So that may be in the distant provenance of that chassis.
Sure.
Out of hog pen and onto the front straightaway again, as we are working race lap number 12 when they cross the line. So 3 to go as of this moment. And again, slower traffic in front. That's David Blaine, who had that spin a lap ago. So they'll be putting him a lap down. So Roy Lopshire, the last car on the lead lap as it stands right now. Roy in another Tercel in the 7th spot.
Lewis faster by a 10th last time through. This is kind of we're just kind of sitting waiting for whether one of these drivers is going to really flip a switch. They seem to both be kind of pushing right at the same pace right now. And it'd be really cool if Lewis could find a little bit more pace, or maybe hoping for a mistake out of Fuller. They've pulled away about 20 seconds from James Gregorius, running in 3rd still with no pressure from behind.
Yeah. Like I say, there's not a whole lot of traffic to contend with, but that's going to be a factor here as David Blaine about to be overhauled by our leader.
Yeah, that's a tricky spot to catch. There's not really anywhere to go in South Bend as Fuller able to peek to the inside. We'll question whether or not, yes, he's going to let him through. David Blaine doing a good job to stay to the left side of the track, right side of my screen. Sorry about that. And get out of the way. So neither of these drivers should be interfered with as they come through. Now Lewis is going to have an easy kind of pull past on Madison Avenue.
Yeah, exactly right. As once again, David Blaine doing a good job of pointing him by, so as not to be a factor in this lead battle. As this undulating long straightaway called Madison Avenue, leading into a very, very tricky braking zone. As the track falls away down the hill through turns 16A and B, and then into the hog pen turn. Here's the 98 of Roy Lopshire. We haven't seen him on camera so far. Roy, a longtime competitor. He's He's in his 25th runoff start. His best finish, a 5th at Road Atlanta back in 1991 when it was still GT4. GT-Lite was a conglomeration of GT4 and GT5 several years ago, and they put some restrictors on the GT4 cars to slow them down just a little bit so that they would still be competitive in this class. And Roy racing his Tercel in GT4 back in the day. But a journeyman racer, been doing it for a long time, a nice guy as well.
Snags the beginning of that curb. That's a big bump.
Yeah, exactly.
We've seen that actually break suspension on some other cars. Got to be a little careful with that. For the top spot, Lewis was 0.6 faster. The gap is almost under a second between Fuller, so he's got to keep it turned on to claim this championship for himself. He's not done yet.
Yeah, his best lap, Graham Fuller's best lap at 2:11.2. His last lap at 2:12 flat, so he's running about 0.8 off his best lap. So it could be that maybe tires going away, perhaps, as his pace down just a little bit, or he's relaxing a little too much.
Well, in a GT-Lite car at VIR, we've talked about it's probably 70–80% just full throttle down this track. So there's not a lot of places to make up time in a car of this power at VIR. And it also makes the corners, specifically the exit at turn 4, the exit at what we're looking at now onto the back straight out of Oak Tree, and Hog Pen at the end of the lap, super important. The rest of the lap almost doesn't matter much because you're just kind of flat out going straight. Other than navigating turns 1 and 3, the rest of the track is almost a non-event. So you don't get a lot of chances to make up ground on somebody if you're running very similar pace, especially. Of course, the gap won't come down much, but Lewis might be kind of stuck with, he's maybe only faster in one corner, and that gap's going to come down in a small way. But he does just set the fastest Sector 2 time, which is all of the upper S's down about halfway down the back straight on this lap. So he's trying everything he's got.
And he's got 2 laps to get it done here as we're working race lap 13, about to complete it, and so 2 more laps to go. We'll see the white flag next time by the stand. As looking at trap speeds, Graham Fuller and Lewis identical trap speeds on that last lap.
Yeah, no kidding. Down to the 1,000th of a mile an hour.
Yeah, exactly. That's something you don't often see. But Lewis definitely closing. As I wonder if Fuller's car just not handling quite as sharply as it had earlier on. I'm sure it's an adjustment for Graham as well, to having driven that front-wheel drive CRX for most of his GT-Lite career. You know, he's got to make some adjustments for this Tercel. I'm sure it handles obviously very, very differently than the car he's used to, so he's got to adapt his driving style to make that work.
Of course, and he qualified at a 2:10.4. He's been consistently lapping right around 2:11 to 2:12, let's say. So he's been very consistent in this race, and of course, kind of cranking the car up for qualifying, not literally, but kind of whipping out one fast lap. It's a little different than doing 15 of them in a row. So this just might be what that Tercel has right in it. But Michael Lewis taking another 0.3 out of the lead. Last time through, it's down to 0.8 of a second at the line. And his strongest sector looks to be the final sector. He's always closest through that final sector. This time, though, Fuller puts a half second on him just in Sector 1 alone. So the 22, he may be feeling the pressure, but he is responding to it and managing it beautifully. Look at Lewis, though. He's pushing hard all the way out to the dirt out of Hog Pen, or Oak Tree.
Yeah, coming to the white flag this time by. So if Lewis has any tricks up his sleeve, and certainly he's got plenty of them with 44 runoff starts, we'll see if he's got anything for Graham Fuller, looking for his first gold medal and only his second medal in 7 tries.
Lewis is so close to the draft, which would absolutely exist in these cars, especially with that big wing on the back. Going to poke a pretty good hole. But he's not quite there. He's going to have to be a little closer than that.
Yeah, exactly right. So Graham Fuller has led virtually the entire race. He took the lead at the start as Shadowen's car just didn't fire off, as I think we all expected, and Graham Fuller took the lead into turn 1 and has not relinquished it. But he will see the white flag indicating 1 lap to go, as Graham Fuller going to do everything he can to keep Michael Lewis behind him. They've got the slower car of Kenneth Burdine up in front of them.
You see the difference in approach there at turn 1. Graham Fuller with a really sharp late turn in for turn one, where Lewis is just rolling to the apex, a very soft, shallow entry, very different approaches, and Lewis is quick this lap. Look how much closer he is. He's closed up 5 car lengths in one corner.
Absolutely, and they're going to have to deal with that slower car up in front of them as they're working their way through left hook and then the right-hander into the snake.
I think they're just going to clear him down this straightaway. That's a great spot to get by this driver.
Yeah, just before they get to the climbing S's, and he's doing a good job of staying off to driver's left, giving him some room.
Yeah, really nicely done from Ken Burdine to notice the lead battle coming up. And this battle it's been a slow burn, but it's been getting hotter the entire time. This is as close as Lewis has been. He will get some draft at this point at that distance. Slings it through South Bend. Fuller just a little bit off the apex. Neither driver risking going off at that risky exit at South Bend.
Here we go into Oak Tree for the final time, and Michael Lewis is there, no question about it. So now, can he get a little toe from Graham Fuller? And I think he most likely can. As you said, he's close enough, and these cars do generate a good toe with that big wing on the back. Lewis is closing. Graham Fuller, I'm sure, has got big eyes in that rearview mirror, seeing that 10-time champion closing down on him. He needs to nail these next sequence of corners if he's going to notch his first gold medal, and Lewis would love to put the 11th one around his neck. As they come down the hill, that's Roy Lopshire in front of them, about to go a lap down, but I think they're going to clear it. Lewis doing a great job, gets a good run through Hogpen as they come onto the front straightaway for the final time. Lewis is coming. Has he got enough of a draft to pull out? We've had photo finishes literally throughout the course of the weekend, but Graham Fuller going to have just enough to get it done. And there's the checkered flag for Graham Fuller as he takes his first gold medal in runoffs competition. Michael Lewis really closing in the closing laps, but not quite enough. And let's say good things about James Gregorius in the other RX-7, the number 9 car coming down the hill, and he will get a medal. Gregorius's first medal in 5 runoff starts, so we've got 2 first-time medalists on this podium joining the veteran Lewis, who will notch his 23rd medal in runoffs competition.
This is going to be extra special for James Gregorius, his first podium in 5 attempts, but was attempting to kind of make it a family affair. They had bought a car. His daughter was going to start racing and unfortunately got a shoulder injury. Unable to race the car. They're going to sell it, but it's going to be special to get the podium and at least be able to say I've medaled at the runoffs, even if we can't do it together,
Exactly right. Peter Shadowen, I'm sure, disappointed with that 4th place finish as the car just didn't fire off as he had hoped. Chris Copley coming home just behind him, about a second and some change in the 5th spot. Jonathan Goodale, who we just saw in the yellow MX-5, takes 6th place honors. As Graham Fuller saluting the corner workers as he makes his way around on his cool down lap. I know Graham pretty well. Be curious to hear what he has to say as they have a chance to talk to him. Hayward will talk to him as he gets down into the pit lane after his cool down lap. Michael Lewis waving to the corner workers as well. Here's your top 10. These are unofficial results, of course. Graham Fuller winning over Michael Lewis by just about 0.3 of a second. James Gregorius finishing in the 3rd spot. Peter Shadowen in 4th. Chris Copley in 5th. Jonathan Goodale finishing in 6th. Roy Lopshire just held on to finish on the lead lap in 7th spot. David Blaine and Kenneth Burdine still running at the end. Roger Welling in the 78. Did not make it to the finish in the number 78. He'll finish in 10th spot. GT-Lite in the history books as we're into the final day of racing here at the 60th running of the runoffs. We've still got a handful of races left to go, but Graham Fuller waving to the corner workers as he makes his way into the pit lane, taking his first gold medal. It's always a special time when a driver, gets his first gold after a few tries. This is a big deal. And glad to see Graham make it happen. And
winner take all, of course, at the runoffs. So it's one of those few places where this race is the only thing that matters at the end of the year for declaring a champion.
Absolutely right. And Graham Fuller also will win the Super Sweep. So he's got something else to celebrate here as well, after winning a Super Tour race, winning the National Points Championship in the Hoosier Super Tour. He won a U.S. Majors Tour Conference Championship and has taken the win in the runoffs. So Graham Fuller, not only a first-time gold medalist, but also a Super Sweep winner. And that's the hardest award to make in road racing for SCCA, and Graham has done them both here. So the car change has definitely been the medicine he's needed to get it done. Hayward Wagner is down there with our winner. Hayward, take it away.
Well, we're getting the medal and the hat on Graham, getting him a water. Got a big congratulations coming in. Graham, you've been close a few times. How does it feel to be a national champion?
It feels great. We've been at this a long time, and it feels wonderful, honestly.
Last couple of laps, it looked like Mike was starting to run you down a little bit. What was your experience like there?
Yeah, the track got a little slick there towards the end, and yeah, he was definitely coming. I was getting a little nervous. He's a hell of a driver.
Not only is this your first national championship, also a super sweep. I'm sure you have quite a few people to thank for this.
Yes. Carbotech brakes, Goodyear tires, my wife Amber, my family for coming out here and doing this crazy stuff. Jamie Hausman Transmissions, O-Star Motorsports, Summit Racing, and most of all SCCA.
Well, it was a great drive. You get one more lap. Enjoy your victory lap here at VIR.
Thanks.
Graham Fuller, I think a little shell-shocked, basically, to realize that he's got that first national championship at the Super Sweep as well. But he deserved it. Took the lead from the drop of the green flag and was never headed, and survived some pressure from a very experienced second-place finisher, Michael Lewis. And in speaking of our second-place finishers, we've got second and third with Hayward Wagner.
Hoping to get a little bit of luck at this one. It looked like you could use just a slight bit more.
Yeah, one more lap, and but we finished the race, which this week is quite an accomplishment for us. But yeah, well, I was finally close enough to her because I was killing him into one in braking and a couple other places. I was finally in position, but no more laps left. So, oh well, he ran a good race, didn't make mistakes, and like I said, the car ran well. Just needs a little more straight line.
Well, congratulations on the silver. Another runoff podium for you here at VIR.
Yeah, thank you.
And third place, we've got James here. A little handshake for the Mazda guys. Per the usual, second place is a little bummed that they didn't win, and bronze is just happy to be here.
It is funny that, right? Everybody that hits third is just ecstatic, and the second guy's like, I should have first. So it is what it is. We had a great run today. I've got to thank my wife, my daughter Shelby that couldn't come down, Tony and Louie that does all the motor stuff for us, and everything that Hoosier and Carbotech and Mazda does for us is just amazing.
Well, congratulations on the podium. Quite an achievement here in GT-Lite.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hayward. Happy podium finishers. Michael Lewis, obviously a little disappointed, was looking for just a little more race time. He thinks he might have had something for Graham Fuller if this had been a 16-lap race instead of a 15. As Fuller takes his victory lap with the checkered flag out the window, but here's the highlights. As Peter Shadowen got the early lead, and Graham Fuller followed him through turn number one and immediately was able to get around him as he does the over-under there at turn two. Stays there on the outside and takes the lead right there and never gave it up after that. Michael Lewis slotting right into third. You can see Jonathan Goodale in that 04 MX-5 slotting up into the fourth spot. But immediately Fuller began to gap the field as Shadowen's car maybe being a little bit of a cork in the bottle. And there Michael Lewis pulls out to take over second spot. Goodale doing a great battle with Gregorius for quite a while. Gregorius finally getting that job done and moving up into the third position. Here he is going around Shadowen a couple laps later, and Chris Copley there in the Mini Cooper giving chase. And then the run to the line with Roy Lopshire just in front, about to go a lap down as he finishes on the lead lap. But first time gold medalist for Graham Fuller and the Super Sweep as well. So a great way to finish the runoffs for Graham Fuller, as we're going to keep going for more racing this afternoon as we are just about to the midway point of the final day of racing for the 60th running of the SCCA National Championship Runoffs. Thanks for Tom O'Gorman and Hayward Wagner. I'm John Phipp, and thanks for being with us, and we'll see you down the road.
My customer experience with Mazda has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm probably not the richest person out here, and they're extremely reasonably priced, and you can buy parts easily, and it's a class that fits both what I want from a racing standpoint and what I can afford.
We got into Mazdas largely just because it's a fantastic platform, and Mazda Motorsports has some of the best support for the grassroots racer in parts and technical advice and everything else, so they make it easy for us to run these cars.